really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, tonight, Bitcoin is flashing a warning we haven't seen in 3 years. The weekly RSI has plunged to 33, miners are getting crushed, and the hash price has fallen to the lowest level in Bitcoin's entire history. But while the whole network is bleeding, there is this one old dude with old school ASIC that just hit a $265,000 block like it's a lottery ticket. So what's happening here? Is Bitcoin gearing up for a violent reversal? Are we starting down the start of a miner-driven collapse? Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's show. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm going to be your host. I'm an iron worker that rolls around the states, knocking over towers. In my free time, I talk crypto to degenerates such as yourself. I'm joined tonight by the fantastic Mr. Zenith and Mr. Bean of the Degen Roundtable. Zenith is our government and legal analyst, and Mr. Bean over there, Brendan, is our macroeconomics specialist. Gentlemen, how are you doing? What's new and exciting with you, Mr. Zenith? I hear there's some fantastic news that happened this week. You'd care to let the folks know?
Yeah, I had a small little personal milestone happen. Was playing golf last night and hit my first hole-in-one ever. This I found the picture of the hole where I did it on my local course that I've probably played 50 times at this point. But you know, it was just one of those things where it just happens, and the whole story just sounds crazy because like we were going. This is the second to last hole of the day. We met up with this other group of 4 people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're kind of doing like a partner scramble thing. Like you and your friend want to join us?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And then one of the guys actually works for like the local TV news station, and he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I got something cool for you." So he gave me a sleeve of balls that have the little like logo on it, and then this was actually the ball that I got the hole-in-one with. But it was such a surreal experience for me because like we were just the guys we met up with, like they're pretty dang good. So I was just like trying to like lock in and like actually shoot good, and then we just get up to the par 3. I focused on hitting a good shot. It was getting a little late in the day, so the sun was getting low there. Ended up staring right at the sun, didn't see what happened, but then everybody started shouting and jumping and screaming and yelling and grabbing me. And then I was like, what is going on? What is going on? But everyone was so funny because they were like, he doesn't believe it. He still doesn't believe it. He's only going to believe it when he goes and pulls the ball out of the hole. So they were like, yeah, get up there, then we'll film it and stuff. And I was like, okay, sick. But yeah, this is the one. 186 yards. We were playing the second to back tees, and look, sometimes a good 6-iron will just get you there. I'm just saying.
Bro, that's so fucking cool. So incredibly rare for like that to happen too. Like I think you were saying it's 2% of all golfers ever get a hole-in-one. So it's like you've made it, bro. You're in the top leagues. That is fantastic.
Been playing for 19 years, long time coming, but super excited. And I mean, the whole rest of the night was absolutely wild because the folks we were staying with, we were playing with, they were already staying at the casino that night. And they're like, all right, well, I hope you're grabbing a room. They're like, oh, we actually have an extra one. You want it? And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Yeah. So hung out with those guys all night, had an absolute blast. Did a lot of drinking, to be honest with you. A little bit of gambling, beautiful dinner, got a nice juicy steak on it. But like, oh my gosh, it was so cool. It was so surreal. And
that's fucking awesome, dude.
You know,
welcome,
I just want
Brendan,
to say,
by the way.
So Zenith says he's been playing 19 years and finally gets hole-in-one. Well, a lot of people play 40, 50, 60 years and they don't even sniff a hole-in-one. So this is a big thing, dude. And congrats. I've played many a round of golf in my life, and I have never come close to a hole-in-one. You know, I've been a few feet from the cup, but never been lucky enough and skilled enough to get that infamous first shot Ace.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think I actually ended up around with I shot pretty darn good on the back nine. The front nine was all right as well. I think I ended up at like 83. So, getting a hole in one will definitely help the scorecard a good bit.
I mean, 83 is around the best round I've ever shot in my life. So it's a good round.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm just so happy and grateful and thankful that so many people were just so excited for me. And it was fun though, because two of the people I was playing with, they also are people that have had hole in ones in their lifetime as well. So we took a few shots with just the hole in one club, hung out with those guys a little bit, but then back to the whole party group, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
I do have a question though. So there's this hidden agreement in golf that if you hit a hole in one, when you get back to the clubhouse, you owe everybody in the clubhouse a round of beers. Now, I don't get this because you're the one that hit the hole in one. People should be buying you beers. Did you buy a round for everyone?
Oh yeah, I bought a couple rounds. Like we had money set aside. We're doing pretty good. So when fun stuff like this happens, we can celebrate. Great night. Maybe a little bit of expensive night, but at the same time, well worth it. Absolutely. I'd do it again.
Hell yeah.
That is awesome, broski. So fucking cool. Brendan, how are you though, man? What's new and exciting with you? There's just nothing but good stuff happening. I see you're wearing a Patriot shirt tonight.
Patriots, number one team in the NFL right now, I believe is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. NFL is the National Foosball League, for those of you guys at home who don't know.
Waterboy, good call out.
Are the Patriots seriously back to being number one?
They're 10-2.
Oh,
I know it's scary. Although they had some injuries today that are definitely going to potentially derail, depending on how serious they are, going to derail the legitimate effort to maybe make a deep run to the playoffs. But nonetheless, the Drake May is a ridiculous talent at quarterback in his second year. He's leading the league so he has the best chance to get MVP in his second year in the league. So it's pretty crazy. Although if I were to guess, I actually think Myles Garrett might get the MVP because he might break the sack record, which is insane. He had another 3 sacks today, and I think he's up to like 18 sacks in like 12 games, which is absolutely ridiculous. The record is 22.5, so he needs 4.5 more in 5 or 6 games. So anyway, I'm doing great. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I was in Colorado for work and celebrating my wife's birthday. We actually got to ski for the opening ski weekend at Vail, which was a good time. I mean, the weather wasn't great. They say they normally have had a lot of snow by then, but it was just a couple of runs that were cold enough to make some snow. They hadn't had any snowstorms, but nonetheless, it was a good time. My first time at Vail. The village is great. It's kind of funny. Like, people party there. Like they party. Like we weren't there partying. We were there partying. We were there having fun, trying to ski, you have a few drinks. We're like, we're here. Like, there's this EDM show at this bar. We go to the EDM show at this bar and it's like, okay, I'll have 2 gins. Sorry, we're out of this gin. Okay, I'll have this gin. Sorry, we're out of this gin. Okay, I'll have this beer. We're out of this beer. I'm like, man, this place is wild. And granted, it was packed wall to wall. So he ends up giving us a beer and he's gin. He's like, this is on the house. And here's another shot on the house because we didn't have what you wanted. I'm like, okay. I go to the bathroom, come out of the stall, and I see 4 people walk into the bathroom, 2 men, 2 women. And this is a men's room, by the way, men's room. And I'm like, I wonder what they're doing. And they go into a little stall, and all I hear is,
oh, fucking cheers to that! Hell yeah!
Oh my god!
And I'm like, I used to live in Miami. I know what I know that sound. But yeah, I guess I didn't realize. It was kind of early in the season. Weren't a lot of people there, but there were still some people getting after it. So
hell yeah, we like it. Speaking of people getting after it, we've got some folks at home that are also getting after it, guys. It's time for chat motherfucking shoutouts, the best part of the show where we talk to the folks at home as they talk to us whilst we are streaming. And I'm going to actually start from the bottom tonight because we've got a question for Mr. Brendan from our good friend Josh, Mr. Slide 180, who says, "Why does Brendan look like a Force ghost?" You do indeed look like Obi-Wan Kenobi from the first 3 Star Warses that were made. So that's freaking awesome.
I might
light in the green.
I can't guarantee that I am or not, but if I am, it only makes the Degen Roundtable stronger.
There
There you go. Absolutely. We've been joined by Miss Jemmy, who says, congratulations, Zenith. Absolutely. Thank you, Jemmy. We fucking love you. By the way, Jemmy is back in LA. It is nice to catch the live. Absolutely. Good to see you, Jemmy. Welcome to the show. We've got Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics rolling in here as well. Congratulations and nice back half. Most fantastic. Good to see you, Moonpilled Rational Optics. Good real life friend of mine. Love it. We've also got Mr. Marcus72, who says, what up, all? What's up to you, Marcus? How are you doing, homie? I hope you enjoy those stickers. And also another sticker winner, Mr. Eddie Gastelum over here saying hello to you too, Mr. Eddie Gastelum. Welcome. And then finally, Hexaco's greatest cheerleader, we're joined by Tam Hexkin, who says, hello, my lovelies. Hello to you too, Tam. Good to see you in the chats. We have a full and fantastic audience tonight. It's going to be despite these market prices being down and everyone saying that the bear market's coming, like, I feel pretty good. I feel fine. I feel a-okay. Like probably like those 4 people in one bathroom stall. I think that life is good right now. So we've got Zenith winning holes in ones. We've got Brennan over here traveling all over the States. But let's get into some of the news for tonight. So Brendan, you had sent us an article, or rather a Twitter post earlier in the leadership chat. Let me go ahead and pull it up right here. Present, share screen, and we're going to pull up this Quantum X thing. So we've got the Atlanta Fed now predicts Q3 GDP at 4.5% for a major upside surprise and contradicting recession narratives. The GDP model now has steadily climbed up all summer and fall, far outperforming nearly all private sector forecasts expected. I don't know what this means. Brendan, can you kind of explain this for the folks at home and also for me?
Yes. So there's two things that we've been talking about a lot recently. One is inflation, right, and the other is interest rates. Now, inflation is when prices rise, and it's bad in our wallet. There's one thing that can offset inflation, and that is real GDP growth. So GDP is gross domestic product, and essentially that is the key indicator showing that the economy overall is growing versus receding. So if it is higher than anticipated and it's higher than inflation, if GDP is outpacing inflation, then inflation really isn't as much of a worry than you would originally think about, because your growth of your country and your economy is growing faster than what the goods and services are increasing by. So essentially it means that more money is being created, more wealth is being created, and so therefore it's sort of offsetting what those inflation narratives look like. This is important because recently we've been hearing a lot of people talk about, we're going into a recession, or we're in a recession, we're in a bear market, we're going to 40K in Bitcoin, and I'm not there yet. I'm really not there yet. I'm on the line. I'm obviously saying that, yeah, there's some worry, but a 35% pullback for me isn't enough to tell me that we're officially in a bear market. Yes, is this like, if you were to look at the 4-year cycle right from top to top, then we nailed it pretty much. But I think, again, there's been a lot of unique things going on, and if GDP is growing at this rate and inflation and outpacing inflation, and we're going to continue to cut interest rates, we're going to continue to print money, we're going to stop quantitative easing in just over a week, then, man, I don't really know what to expect, but it's maybe not as bearish of an outlook as people have been painting.
I think you're not wrong. We've had some pretty big conflicting signals about what's been going on lately. Like, even if you go look over at the S&P 500, we did have the most recent all-time high back on the 27th of October. And then since then, it's kind of been downhill for a little bit. Nothing crazy. Like, it's only down to like 659 after touching 690. But at the same time, though, trying to figure out, like, okay, how's inflation doing? How are the projections looking? There's a big change in the projections when the government shutdown was going on. And they were estimating that, like, GDP was going to drop by like a tenth or 0.2 percentage point just based on how long the government shutdown was going for. But what we're seeing here is that, look, people are actually, forecasting it to be up, maybe even a little bit higher than previously. So again, it's the mixed signals. It's which one do you believe? Do you believe that everything's kind of screwed, or do you believe that things are actually looking towards the upside? Which, by the numbers, we've had a pretty darn good historic run when it comes to overall macro numbers, overall crypto markets. But yeah, crypto in particular, I think, is the one where we're looking at the charts and trying to figure out if we're actually flashing the top signal or if there's more to come. Because if you look at the calendar of things to come down the pipe, we're probably going to get more interest rate cuts. We're officially going to end quantitative tightening December 1st, looking at possibly starting quantitative easing sometime in the future. There's even more talk that I've seen lately about the that $2,000 stimulus check or whatever. And it's all stuff that's lined up for the future. So it's trying to figure out what are we doing? Which way are we going? Is it over? Are we back? Are we so back? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that stimmy check isn't supposed to be coming out, according to a recent thing from FinWatch. I saw that President Trump said that $2,000 tariff dividend will be sent to Americans by mid 2026. So, all this fun, like, oh my God, we're gonna get some stimmies, like right fucking now. It's like, nah, that ain't fucking happening, bro. You gotta wait another 8 months for that. So who knows? But like, I don't know all the technical stuff, and I don't know all the chart reading and all the quantitative easing, and I understand what you guys are saying, but like, it just doesn't process very well. I will say that it doesn't feel like it's been a bull market, and so I'm of the same sentiment that you guys are, that it's like there's probably something left, hopefully, but I've been wrong many times before, so I'm ready to eat that humble pie if it gets served my way.
Interestingly enough, I think that a lot of people that feel the pain are the ones that are over leveraged in the market, that were expecting the money that they put in a couple of years ago to be starting to hit, their bank account now. And, they had plans that aren't looking like they're working out to their expectations. So I'd say that the people that are feeling the worst are the people that are over leveraged. And I would always say that in crypto, you have to be a bit careful, and you have to, put in what you can afford to lose. Luckily for me, that, I'm in a place where I'm making money, so I don't need any of the money that's in my crypto accounts. And if I have to wait another few years for those to come to fruition, as I stake, as I LP, as I, increase my coin count, I mean, it is what it is. To be honest with you, I'm getting a big bonus in January. So if we're going to a bear market, that just means that I can stack a lot of coins. So, I'm fine either way. I never sold the Bitcoin that I have bought early in this cycle. I did trade a little bit for ETH, which wasn't a good play in the end, but I still have Bitcoin, so this was a successful cycle for me overall. Even the Richard Hart coins, interestingly enough, like, we're at all-time lows, and I've put a lot of money in, but because of how much I've pulled out through over a year of LPing, it feels weird, but I'm really not down that much. And a 2x would put me far into the green. So I'm not really in a place where it's dire for me, and I understand that's not the case for everybody. And so what I'm doing is just trying to find where are we? Are we going up at some point? Is this a pullback before the bump? Now I do have, an interesting thought, and I've bounced this off a few people, but with the institutional players in the large whales, using leverage, it really is creating a unique cycle that we haven't had in the past. And it's like, okay, if people are going to long, then I hate to say this, but the exchanges are going to take you to the cleaners because they're playing the game too. And so how do we move up if people are continuing to put huge amounts onto the long? Weirdly enough, I think that we have a chance to go up once people are too afraid to long. If they're too afraid to long, then there really isn't anything to liquidate, and the price can move up in rapid succession. So there is still a possibility for us to run higher, like Bitcoin 150, 200, like that's still a possibility. It might not be the percentage possibility that we were looking at a few months ago. But again, it's just a different cycle. And if they scare people enough into not putting huge amount of money into the longs, then we could sneaky get up there. What do you think about that, Zenith?
I think you had a really good starting out point there, which is like, who are the people that are hurting the most? People that have been going for the levered positions for sure. But also, I think people that are heavily invested in alts as well are the ones that have really been suffering a lot this cycle. Because we've seen some good runs every once in a while, but we haven't seen like a really true alt season to finish off the cycle or anything. And then, gosh, the last time the alts ran pretty good was probably back in like November, December, January. And that's like 11 months ago at this point. And then since then, Bitcoin has continued to make multiple new all-time highs. But when it comes to the possibility of getting back to those upper levels, I think it's definitely possible. But at the same time, if we got that, that would be, at this point, in my opinion, that would be a confirmation of breaking the current trend. The current trend, as I'm looking at it, is we just had our second weekly candle close below the 50-week moving average, meaning that appears to be the dominant trend. And until we get confirmation that that is broken, then I'm kind of going to operate that, yeah, it kind of looks like the top might be in here. But at the same time, like I said previously, there's so many other things that are just like lined up and ready to go. And it's all the stuff we've been talking about for so long, which is why it doesn't feel like it's over, because the possibility of moving higher is just like, it's right there. We can point to it. We've been pointing to it for years. We've been very consistent on this, actually. So I think you're also very correct, which is like the probability of getting back to those higher levels. I think it's definitely a lower probability now than it was a couple months ago, or even like 1 month ago. So I'm just gonna have to see things change. But at the same time, though, I think the fear and greed index is a good indicator that this could just be a temporary down because of how low it's been. And by the way, it's been sitting at like 10, 11, 12, 13 for pretty much like a week now. Because we first
fear and greed.
Yeah, fear and greed, because we first hit it back on the 15th of November, and then only now did we push back up to 19 today. But it is such a historically low level that when these kinds of things happen, it usually is an indicator that there is going to be some kind of recovery or bounce to happen, because it shows that position is so suppressed, it is below the norm. Whether that norm to get back to is all-time highs, or at least in probably maybe back up towards that 100K level. But I think the possibility of actually a recovery after this amount of downside is possible. Again, I'm not saying all-time highs, but I'm saying recovery of some kind.
Yeah, and again, previous cycles we didn't have institutional buyers. Like Michael Saylor and Strategy bought every day last week. They bought every single day last week. I don't know if you saw that.
That's what they do.
And the same thing with Ethereum, right? Like, so there's a lot of money in these large cap currencies that aren't being sold like they had the possibility of last cycle. Now you could say, hey, okay, we're in a bear market. That just means we're not going to go back down to 40K anymore. We're going to go down to 60K, and that's the bottom, right? We dropped from 120 to 60. We only got down 50% instead of 80%. Like that is certainly a possibility as well. So if these institutional, companies hold, then yeah, we might not go down as low as we have in the past. Like maybe that's the difference this cycle. It's not that, hey, we're moving back up because the cycle's changed. Maybe the difference is we're just not going down as much. So I'm certainly looking at both sides of the coin here. I'm just saying that I need more information before I say 100% that it's over. I know a lot of people have been trying to call the top, and a lot of people have been calling the top. In fact, I feel like every influencer is called the top, which also tells me that the crowd is often wrong. So I just feel like so many people have called the top that I'm like, there was no euphoria. There was so many top signals that haven't hit other than the 4-year cycle and a couple others. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It just feels like if this was the top, then maybe we could never make money in crypto ever again.
I don't know, man. Was Bitcoin created? Was it created by the CIA? Is this the final end to everything in the crypto sphere? So Zenith, it looked like you had something to say, bro.
No, this is not the final end to what's going on there. If anything, Brendan's point about having a lower or a higher low for what could be the ultimate bear cycle low, bear cycle low, is that we got two different narratives that are really supporting this idea. Number one is obviously just the overall maturing market, which is that the older Bitcoin gets, the more stable it gets, meaning less pump, but also less dump. So I think last time we dumped like 79% from all-time highs or something. So this time, if we saw something close to like 70, that would make sense. But at the same time, having TradFi in this market as well, it has gotten the market to the point where we see people that have a lot of these long-term positions, and people like Michael Saylor, they don't ever plan on selling this kind of stuff. So as a result of that, it also kind of adds this like little kind of safety net under the assumption that they actually stick to their word and that they don't ever sell, because it reduces downside selling pressure when the market has invested so much capital to get it up to these prices. And then as long as those people don't sell, the selling pressure really just isn't there.
So you bring up a good point with the Michael Saylor, and I want to bring up I had this sort of kind of saved as an article, but we'll go ahead and bring this up now. And this is from Peter Brandt earlier. All right, Coin Signals is the one that let us know this. But Peter Brandt, in his own personal opinion, the United States government should engineer a sharp price decline, forcing Saylor into liquidation. Then the U.S. government can stock up on Bitcoin to back up the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. And he speculates that driving the price down to $30,000 would do the trick. Now, I don't know exactly what where he was coming out with this big left field thing, but there's tons of people, not just Michael Saylor. There's also like the oh man, I can't remember how many companies have Bitcoin reserves, but like there's a lot of companies that have just been like leveraging the value of their company to go and borrow money to buy Bitcoin, and then edit repeat. This thing has been happening a whole lot. So there's a whole lot of Bitcoin bought on sort of kind of leverage that I don't know if it would have been bought otherwise in the market. So I think that this is something worth considering as well. We got a comment here from Mr. Frank White saying that Saylor lets us know that he has no liquidation price. I'm sure that Michael Saylor would love for that to be true. And I don't really know how all this stuff works, but like these companies can buy and they can also sell. Like we've said this with Brendan, who was the company, SharpLink, that we were the ones to talk about with the Ethereum strategic reserve. There's
SharpLink is one of them. Yep.
Yeah, there's Bitmine as well, and they're like, there's a ton of companies that are out there buying these cryptocurrency assets, and just like retail, they can buy, they can sell, they can do the same things that we can. So just because they have all of this buy pressure leading up to this point doesn't mean that they can't sell at some point. We speculate that they won't sell, and we presume that they won't sell, and that seems to be the reasonable thing, but the reasonable thing isn't always what happens. So, and I also want to do a quick little shout out to Mr. US Crypto Boogie with the $5 super chat. Thank you, broski. We fucking love you guys. Go check out Crypto Boogie. Crypto Boogie and our good friend Mr. Angry Twinkie. They do a tacos and kimchi stream quite often. They're two moon gangers, two degens, two fantastic, awesome real life friends of ours. So shout out to you, Crypto Boogie, and good to see you, broski. What's up, monkeys? And he reminds everyone to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We've also been joined by Mr. Frank White, Bang Bang Degen Gang, and then he goes on to say that the stimmies would be pretty big, injecting hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy. And then also we got a thought from Mr. Marcus over here. He's been saying since the end of last cycle, a triple top is on the way, and he wants to know what our thoughts are. So I want to turn it over to you guys and see what you think about that.
To get a triple top would have to require some pretty unique activity inside of the market, because you'd have to have the influence to make it. It pretty much would be, there'd be an all-time high. Like, here's a scenario. You could hit an all-time high. You get some people selling off, but then not enough people selling off and people buying up the dip again to create that second top. Pretty much the same scenario. And then for the third one, people are like, okay, it's actually time. Now we all sell. And then you create it. It's the idea that Bitcoin is really driven by the halvening. I think that narrative is absolutely on life support at this point. There's so much money that's been coming into the system that sort of fundamental is no longer the thing that really drives how the market moves. We're 16 years into it at this point, and we've achieved like almost $4 trillion market cap with it. So the halvening just reducing the amount of supply going into the market. I think that narrative's not great, but at the same time, trying to build the narrative of a potential triple top, I would have to see the underlying forces that are causing something like that to happen. And I mean, looking at the charts now, do we kind of have a triple top? I guess you could. No, I don't really see an argument for it because we had top in August, July, August, and then October. But at the same time, the October one was a pretty good bit higher. And then between those, it was kind of just chopping around between that like 124 and 108 level. And then only now have we really seen like a pullback to a size where if we recovered from it, this would be possibly the first of the, or excuse me, the second of the three tops. It's possible. I just don't see a driving force for it.
I don't have an answer, but I think that's a good one. I don't have more to add to what you said. I will say, Will, on what you talked about from Michael Saylor, he doesn't. Frank White says this too. He doesn't have a liquidation price because he bought spot. You know, he's not leveraged like a lot of people that are, you know, getting absolutely wrecked, like on October 10th when, you know, Binance, who used their own Oracle and their Oracle failed, and people got liquidated and their stops didn't hit because the Oracle failed. And it's like, okay, your platform failed. I shouldn't be liquidated because of it. But guess what? You're still liquidated because it's not really your money. It's any money that's on their exchange is their money until you take it back. Anything that you don't get off is still their money.
So not leverage in the like the traditional sense, but leverage in the sense that it's borrowed money with the stock printing. So like Frank White goes on to say he pays the loans back with the stock that he prints. So like it's not leverage in the ladies liquor leverage sense. It's leverage into like I'm borrowing more money from the people that are buying my company in order to buy more of this thing.
Kind of.
Like, and he does have like a thing where he has to pay them back on like a schedule and stuff. So like they have to pay their, I can't remember what it is, like 20% APY or 10% APY for the people that buy the certain type of stock that he then uses the money for to go and buy the Bitcoin. So it's like the money that they pay their shareholders back with has to come from somewhere. And if the price of Bitcoin goes too low, then the reserve of that money, like they either have to take the money from the people that are putting it in and give it to the people that are already in and need the payout, or they have to get it from somewhere, is what I'm saying. And I don't know if MicroStrategy goes and like makes Hot Wheels cars or something that they sell at Walmart in order to generate revenue. So I'm pretty sure that they're just a stock managing company or something along those lines, an asset managing company. So when they're paying people out real cold hard cash, that cash has to come from somewhere, is what I'm saying. So eventually, if the price of the asset that they're buying goes low enough that they run out of their store of their big vault of money that they have somewhere, then eventually they have to start selling something. So that's what I understand the meaning of the leverage to be, anyways. But yeah, you're go ahead.
Look, you're not wrong, which is that what MicroStrategy's their tactic has been is they pretty much use loans to buy up more Bitcoin, and it's been largely successful. So theoretically, if the underlying asset ever dropped low enough, it would mean that kind of the valuation of the entire company would drop below their ability to repay the loans, even if they tried to like sell the entire company effectively. But at the same time, though, it's like what Brandon was saying, which is like they bought spot, meaning that they're not going to get liquidated based on price movement, but price movement can affect the overall company, and the whole company now is basically just a Bitcoin holding company. So it's also going to be a question of how long is price down? Do investors in the company like leave? Does it actually affect their underlying plan? If it drops low enough, will they even be able to? I mean, if the price drops, obviously he's going to want to buy, but he's going to have to find new ways to buy, as opposed to kind of the tactics he's used in the past. But I mean, at this point, I don't want to say it's like the too big to fail thing, but they have set themselves up in a very, very solid position, in my opinion, and I don't really see it failing. That's just me.
Frank's got a clarification for us. So one, they don't repay in cash, so that's good to know. I did not know that. Thank you, Frank White. And then he goes on to say that the stock is worthless. Basically, for some reason, people buy his bonds, which is what he is able to repay with stock. This is why the stock price drops so hard. They sell software, but very small businesses almost nothing compared to their Bitcoin business selling bonds. Okay, so that's interesting. They sell bonds. Very, very interesting. Good to know.
Yeah, and look at last cycle. I mean, they bought every top last cycle. It crashed 85%, and they
That's
were in a
fair.
fine spot. Now you could argue that they're leveraged higher now. So if it crashed 8%, it would be harder. But honestly, I don't buy it. I feel like they're just so strong, and honestly, they're earning a ton of yield, and they've earned a ton of yield, more than what they're paying to their debtors. So I don't know. They're stacking cash, and we'll see. Look, anything's possible, but they're not going to get liquidated in the sense that people are talking about. Like if
Yeah.
it drops down to 50K, I still don't think they're going to have an issue. So, I really don't know what that number would be, if anything, but there's nothing that ever says that they have to sell their Bitcoin. Like there's nothing in any of these agreements when it comes to their debts where they would potentially have to sell Bitcoin. So there's something to think about there.
That's
Okay.
true. By the way, some quick numbers for you. If Bitcoin, if this was the top and Bitcoin drops 80% from here, that'd put you at about $25,300 Bitcoin.
Wait, from here or from 122?
From 126, excuse me.
26, yeah.
If it dropped down to 30K, that'd be 76% drop. If it got a 70% drop, that'd be down to like 38. And then getting down to about 50K would only be a 60% drop from the all-time highs. So as far as like your targets for the bottom of the bear market next time, these, I mean, now that we're doing the math, these are some high numbers compared to where we have been in the past. Like what, we bottomed out at 15.7 previously. So even if we, 76% is pretty close to what I would expect, maybe even less of a drop based on the maturing market idea. So somewhere between like 30,000 and 35,000 for the next bear market low. Even at that point, I don't think that those guys are going to be hurting so bad that like the whole system like collapses in on itself.
Yeah, it's not like FTX where they were literally leverage trading with Alameda Research, right? Like they were using funds. And now I love this narrative where they're like, no, everyone was paid back in full. No, they weren't paid back in full. They were paid back in full of prices 4 years ago at the bear market low, not on current prices. And not only that, but you're not taking into consideration the other exchanges that you, by the way, bankrupted because they let you loan money. So, for example, Voyager loaned money to FTX. Because FTX wasn't able to pay back that loan, Voyager also folded. And Voyager, I had a lot of money on back then. The weird thing about Voyager is you couldn't actually transfer certain coins off the exchange. Like they were slowly building their exchange at like every month there'd be like a new coin you could trade off. But like when it crashed, you couldn't even trade Sol. You couldn't even trade your Solana. You couldn't get it off the exchange unless you sold it, for whatever and then put it into a different coin and then transferred it off. So it was kind of a weird thing. But all my point is they're not over leveraged in the sense that FTX was, Alameda Research, and then all these other companies that are loaning money to these over leveraged companies. So that was kind of a perfect storm. I don't see that happening now. That doesn't mean there aren't other potential black swans that could happen. I mean, we also have some good news, additional good news, like the war between Russia and Ukraine could be over in the next couple of weeks. There is a chance that they're leaning and getting towards an actual agreement to end the war. It seems like it's going in that direction. I will believe it when I see it. A lot of people are saying that it benefits Russia in some cases, but what I've seen is that it also benefits Ukraine as they stay as a sovereign state. They get the agreement of backing from defenses from the United States. And so like if this, I haven't read into the entire thing, and of course we'll see what the final deal is, if there is a final deal. But again, that is another thing that could lead to, global benefit to the entire world. By the way, Russia would get amnesty. So if Russia gets war amnesty, that means that they can sell now oil to the entire world. This now opens up the economy in a way that we haven't had in 3 years. So again, there are these other things turning and getting to place that could really, like, what happens if we go back to, what happens if we go down another 20K, but then this world economy starts to turn in a way that we haven't seen, or like post-war economy, and it just starts to take off. Now, you could say, yes, most post-wars actually dip before they take off. But that's when there's been world wars. That's when the United States has been involved. The United States, we talked about it earlier, the GDP is cranking. So if Russia and all those sanctions end, that just opens up a lot more liquidity for the entire global market. That's literally what's going to happen. So that would actually be a white swan event potentially versus what we're used to seeing in crypto and getting stepped on with the black swan events. Zenith, Will, what do you think could happen if Russia, Ukraine come to an end, and Russia gets amnesty, they get to full back to full normal trading? That could be a really big injection into the markets, no?
I can finally buy my AK-47 and 74 rounds cheaply. I can get my Molat Vepers again. I could get Mosin Nagant ammo nice and inexpensive and not have to buy this crap American 7.62 by 54R ammo anymore. Like that would be nice for me. I would certainly like it, and it'd be cool if they became friends again. I'm reading through just a quick little AI summarization. There's basically territorial concession. Ukraine would cede, and this is for the proposed 28-point draft brokered by the U.S. and Russia that they presented to Ukraine. But it's basically Ukraine ceding control over parts of the eastern Donbass region, including recognition of the Russian annexation of Crimea. Military limitation for Ukrainian military is capped at 600,000. Ukraine would be barred from joining NATO, and it also includes a Russia-NATO security dialogue and non-aggression pact. And then Russia would leave, and Ukraine's borders would be restored to their pre-2014 lines, and all prisoners of war would be released. Zelensky said that it's one of the most difficult moments for Ukraine. But he's coming up with his own little plan. And then Putin said that it's basically a good basis for a peaceful settlement, but he has not stated that negotiations have started. So that's like the AI summarization of the plan point. But like my cynical side believes that, if this one ends, then another one will start. Maybe it'll be Israel and Iran. Maybe it'll be fucking the United States versus Antarctica. I don't fucking know, but I'm willing to bet that if one war ends, then another one starts. We've been fueling this global war on the idea of terrorism for a long time. The GWAT, as all of my fellow ketchup stain having military members hold on their chest, that war has finally ended. So nobody gets those little ribbons anymore, just for going to boot camp during a time of war. But I think that a new one will start somewhere, and the U.S. will be like, money printer go bird, time to go send some defense to another place. And I don't know. That's my cynical take, though. Zenith, what do you think? I can see you're itching for a thought over there.
Even if the Ukraine conflict ends, I don't know if I have good news for Will and Boogie, which is that a lot of the Russian ammo ban actually happened before the Ukraine conflict kicked off under the Biden administration. So I don't see that. I don't see that being kind of undone instantaneously. And also at the same time, just the rules surrounding weapon part kits for all those excellent Kalashnikovs is probably not going to change. So it's, for all my 7.62 by 39 enjoyers out there, I don't have great news, even if the Ukraine conflict ends. But outside of that, the main thing I'm looking at is that if the Ukraine conflict ends, it looks more like economic stability in the world. And like Brendan said, theoretically, it would be an avenue to help kind of bring Russia back into the fold when it comes to markets, because a lot of what's been going on through the Ukraine conflict is a lot of economic sanctions. The banking industry was a massive one that they pretty much got cut off from. Russian oil was another one that got cut off pretty heavily. So overall, if you have more stability in the world, it can only, in my opinion, kind of help the markets, unless the markets have been propped up through bad regulation and kind of like price fixing for certain things. But I mean, the EU and Russia have been having a lot of negotiations about oil and energy, and about getting cheap Russian oil effectively in an attempt to help, heat all of Europe effectively. But bringing them into the fold, theoretically, it might, or at least just ending the conflict, it would. And I don't know. Do you guys think it would strengthen or weaken Russia's position? in the world stage because they're part of the BRICS alliance over there. And then to Will's point about war will always continue, well, the one that people have been looking at for a long time is, well, is China actually going to go after Taiwan? China, again, right in that BRICS alliance, it's to me, it's a question of, does peace in the world allow them a better position when it comes to trying to make aggressive moves like trying to take Taiwan, aka the single largest chips manufacturer in the world, especially in the age where we're doing all the AI stuff, and that is heavily needed for all of that. So I think that coming to an agreement with the Ukraine conflict would maybe pressure people to back off because it allows all the nations to kind of refocus their efforts elsewhere. So theoretically, if China did want to try to take Taiwan, doing it during kind of all the confusion surrounding the Ukraine conflict would be an opportune time to do so. We have not seen that, though, and with the conflict winding down, leads me to believe that hopefully the rest of the world will start to kind of calm down from the militaristic stance. But at the same time, the BRICS nations are getting very aggressive with all of the economics movements that they're going for, whether it's China buying up gold, trying to create some sort of gold-backed currency over there in Asia. That's something that the world, specifically the U.S., who has the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, that would be the kind of the next thing to start fighting over. But overall, like, look, if the conflict ends, that's great because it means less dying. At the same time, it means that we're kind of going back to a more stable world. More stable world means more normal action in the markets, and then we can start building better positions. Maybe Bitcoin is one of the winners of that, but at the same time, the great irony is that Bitcoin was also one of the big winners at the start of the conflict because people realized, oh wow, getting assets and cash out of a war-torn country is very difficult to do. You know, it's easy, converting to Bitcoin and then sending the Bitcoin anywhere in the world almost instantaneously.
They're not. Go ahead.
Yes. Will, you got something to say?
I was going to pivot in a totally different direction. So
then I'll go quick. Zenith, you had said, is it going to help the market? Is it going to lead to a little bit more instability because of potential for Will said potential for other wars? I will say that all the wars started prior to the current president, and during his last term and his current term, there have been no new wars started. So I would say that if people are either afraid or respect the power of the commander-in-chief, then there's much less chance for there to be a war. I also say that, like China, right? If China were to invade and then that creates a larger war, well, Russia's weakened right now. The Middle East is weakened right now. So they don't have a lot backing, maybe North Korea, but they'd actually be in a pretty weak point currently to invade, in my opinion, Taiwan, because they don't have any allies that would be there to support them if it grew into a larger conflict. So if I were to guess, most people would want to wait for several years, allow everyone's economy to get better, to build back their arsenals before any large war were to happen. Now, could there be some skirmishes? Could there be some other? Look, Middle East is always a wild card. You never know what's going to happen there, but it seems like there's some respect for the current commander-in-chief. And by respect, that also could mean fear. Respect and fear are not so different when it comes to political international politics, by the way. So whatever that means, it means. But if the war ends, I know people, you could also say, well, we've been printing money to send it to Ukraine. Well, that actually hasn't happened in a while. We haven't printed any new money to send to Ukraine too much recently. By the way, there's a little bit of money laundering seeming to happening over there, which many people have been saying happening for years. But anytime when you get $1 trillion going to a country, there's going to be some money laundering, right? Some people are going to take a skim off the top and put some in their pockets. But nonetheless, I think it would be very good for the overall economy. Again, world economy starts to open up, more liquidity, more oil, could drive prices down, could reduce inflation even more. Our GDP continues to rise. Honestly, it's kind of a unique situation that could be happening in 2026, which, if you believe in the extended theory cycle, if it could ever happen, there are these things that are still potentially falling into place that would allow it, at least potentially, to happen outside of what we would consider a normal cycle. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I'm not writing it off yet.
there's a lot of new and interesting things happening this time around, and I am quite curious to see what there is coming in the future. But on the subject of new things going on, there's a new bill being proposed. Speaking of Bitcoin and speaking of sending things out to places, so this is from Coin Bureau, a new bill proposing the allowing of taxes to be paid in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin for America Act would let payers let go of their precious Bitcoin and send it over to the government that would then fund the National Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. Now, I think this is a terrible idea. I think that it's not the good kind of what we want to see with Bitcoin and government use. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. We don't have to dwell on this one too long. Zenith, I see that you sent some things in about altcoins, so we'll pivot over to that once we're done with this idea. But I want to get your guys' take on this before we hop over to the next thing. Z, what do you think?
So, good and bad. The good is it is further adoption and legitimization of Bitcoin by pretty much the largest institution on the face of the planet, aka the US government. I don't think this is going to go how people expect it to go, which is like it's more of a signal of like, yes, this is a legitimate thing that you can use to pay off debts and taxes and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, though, the people that are interested in Bitcoin, I don't think they're looking to get rid of their Bitcoin, and they're definitely not looking to send it to the US government. So, is it an interesting new way to pay your taxes? Yes. Is it going to be the way that I think people are going to pay their taxes? I think definitely not, because the people that like Bitcoin don't want to get rid of it. So
that's what I think as well. What do you think, Brendan?
I just want to know if I'm going to have to pay taxes on any gains. Oh, by the way, speaking of taxes, if you were in an ecosystem in crypto where you were down on your coins and you don't want to sell them, like you want to hold them long term, but you're down currently, we're getting towards the end of the year. Now, when you sell a stock, you can't just buy it right back and take that as a tax loss. Well, in crypto, that is not the same rule as a stock market. So now, I'm not a financial tax expert. Don't take my advice. Ask your tax advisor before you do any of this. But you might be able to sell any coins that you are down on and then buy them back right away and count that money as a tax loss. So I am currently sitting on a large amount of loss from the previous bear markets, where it looks like I'm at a loss, but in reality my portfolio is up. So all I'm using is that money for any future capital gains. So again, at the end of this year, Richard Hart ecosystem comes to mind for me. I may sell all of my coins and buy them all right back. And, that loss is locked in for tax purposes. And then you do not necessarily, again, maybe, who knows? I don't know. I'm not a doctor or tax analyst, but you might not have to pay as many taxes because you have a loss on the books. And that has to happen by the end of the year. So just keep that in mind. And that is very important. That's actually one of the things that's unique about crypto versus stocks, and one of the ways that you can really get ahead moving forward. Like, for example, say you take a loss now, in the future when you get a big gain, that loss that you took now is actually taken off that big gain from a tax standpoint, so you don't have to pay as many taxes. Now you can only take $2,000 a year if you don't have a big gain, but if you have a big gain, $3,000 a year. But if you have a big gain, then those even each other out. Then it's a very big different story.
Yep.
So they can offset other investment gains, but if you don't have investment gains, then it's just a $3,000 write-off that you can take per year.
There you go. Excellent. All right, we're going to pivot. We're going to do a hard pivot over into some talking about altcoins. Now that we've covered the Bitcoin, this is an article that Mr. Zenith has shared with us. We've got altcoins are doing something they never do during a Bitcoin crash, and it's not normal. Bitcoin's dumped almost straight down for weeks, yet altcoins over Bitcoin quietly refuse to break, and the chart proves it. While Bitcoin is down 24% in November, the alt-BTC ratio is actually up 9% this month. That's the first major divergence we've seen in months, and it usually only happens after one thing, which is altcoin seller exhaustion. So he goes on to talk a whole lot more, but Z, what are your thoughts on this?
So this story kind of coincides with a handful of other things that are going on right now. Number one, obviously starting back in October, we had massive sell-offs, we had massive liquidations, and the Bitcoin price is the thing that has been dropping. Additionally, throughout the entire year, and honestly, a lot of this entire bull market, it looks like Bitcoin and some of the other bigger L1s perform pretty well. But at the same time, the alts are not doing super well, and they've been bleeding largely. So what we're seeing in this most recent move is that it's saying the alts have kind of not been bleeding as much as we would have expected, because traditional theory says that Bitcoin leads the markets and then alts kind of do a multiplied effect of whatever is going on with that. So Bitcoin moves down, alts move down farther. Bitcoin moves up, alts move up farther. This time we've kind of seen the inverse, which is that Bitcoin has been the one with some of the largest losses, and also Ethereum and some of the other big ones like Solana right up there as well. But the altcoins haven't been bleeding as much. As a result of that, it's not saying altcoins are increasing. If you take the ratio, it's saying that Bitcoin is moving down further than the alts are moving. Therefore, on the chart, that differential shows up as the positive as we see there. So what you could argue is that, well, like the tweet suggests, is that altcoin sellers have pretty much been exhausted at this point. Or if you've been following to the discourse in the Pulse Chain and Hexagon ecosystem for a long time, it's like, the final shakeout, meaning that there's nothing else to shake out. Therefore, if people aren't selling, price really isn't going to be moving down outside of just having the old Hart's Law effect of combined or paired liquidity and that effect. So this could theoretically be a setup, as the tweet is suggesting, for a decent run on altcoins, because selling pressure has been largely mitigated. Therefore, if there's any movement towards the upside, that it would mean that altcoins can actually gain substantially from this. And it's not saying full on altcoin season, but it is saying, look, the potential for upside gain looks like it might be increasing. So there you go.
What he's saying essentially is the underlying metrics aren't showing bear market yet.
It could be that. It could also be that, again, this ties into a handful of other news stories going on, which is people are asking, why is Bitcoin price dropping so much? Part of it is because, well, we have TradFi and large institutions in. Who are the people that are selling? Well, it's TradFi and large institutions. Once the price moves to an area that is theoretically disadvantageous, and maybe you start seeing some of those stop losses coming in, and they want to mitigate downside risk, that would line up exactly with what we're seeing here, which is that these kinds of folks are largely only invested in the biggest stuff, aka Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, other larger L1s. So it's trying to figure out what's going on with the new market. A lot of the crypto native folks like us, we probably are very heavily invested in altcoins, and because we believe that altcoins have outsized potential and a lot of upside that just the larger assets don't have. That is not the exposure that the traditional finance people have. So traditional finance people are seeing their own kind of downside exposure versus the possibility of altcoin exposure, which we've been experiencing year long, almost bull run long at this point. Therefore, it's kind of seeing the two different players and what's going on with those guys. So TradFi folks probably not doing too great right now. They're in the crypto markets because their tokens are the ones that are going down. The crypto native folks, they've kind of been bearing the downside for a long time, and it looks like it's slowing up, which could set up for a nice reversal if that $80,000 Bitcoin price really was the local bottom here.
Now, how are miners looking? I feel like they did pretty good in the run up. But since the run up to all-time high, it's been challenging for them. And I'm curious, again, if they need the price to go up. By the way, I don't like all caps. I don't like when people type in all caps. But can we pull up that interesting comment by Salsa Bill?
Yep. So we got JP Morgan Chase, Larry Fink, and Changpeng Zhao crypto manipulation syndicate artificially crashing the market, spreading rumors to panic retail investors and panic ETF participants just to grab the crypto at a very cheap price.
Possible?
It's definitely possible, especially as we've gotten more information about what was happening back in early October when we had the Yeah, 1010 baby. The single greatest liquidation that we've ever seen of $19 billion from the market. Granted, keep in mind that was also the highest that open interest in the market has also been ever, because it was, gosh, I want to say it was up around $80 billion or $80 billion for people that had longs and shorts open on the crypto market. So again, it's the culmination of a lot of these different narratives that seem to be, we're kind of getting the information after the fact. So it looks like there were issues on exchanges. The exchanges triggered sell-offs. The sell-offs triggered further sell-offs when the price also hit those deeper ones, and then it was that compounding effect. So at the same time, we keep talking about it. Like, look, Michael Saylor and good old MicroStrategies, they were buying Bitcoin pretty much every day last week, like Brendan said. Additionally, if you follow the Ethereum Strategic Reserve Tracker, people have been buying this entire time. So it does raise that exact kind of narrative right there, which is like, look, there is some force going on to drive prices lower, whether the original intention was to drive it lower and then it triggered secondary effects that kept it going lower. But at the end of the day, that's just what was happening in the markets. When it comes to people's individual activities about if they are buying or selling, well, it looked like people were trying to scoop it up as cheap as they possibly could.
Yeah. So I don't disagree in how much it's happening, right? It's happening on some level. The exchanges, the large institutional investors, it's happening on some level. How widespread? Now that's up for debate. You could say that it's very widespread. I mean, 1010 again was wild. Not only did it, I don't think people realize how much Binance's system broke. Like, a lot of people got liquidated that should never have gotten liquidated because stop losses didn't hit because their Oracle failed. Like, that is exactly what you don't want to happen in crypto. That's exactly what you don't want to happen in a market where you're supposed to trust the person that you're trading with. And this is why we talk a lot about centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, being able to, run code from your own computer, being able to have, no one that you need to buy, sell, transact with, hold your coins. I mean, these are just, counterparty risk that you're bringing into already a risky portfolio. So I do believe that some of this is happening. Will, what you got?
I was just gonna say, it's like I can't believe all this bad stuff is happening when all these tools that I rely on that aren't my own, that are controlled by other people, all just happen to go wrong all at the same time. It's like, you know, self custody, not engaging in leverage, like it's basically just it's all avoidable, And I'm not saying that the people did anything wrong. I'm saying that there's ways that folks cannot do the things that they did. They trusted systems. Their trust was proven to be incorrect, and they paid heavily for it. What was it you said, Zenith? $80 billion or something like that? Like, that's no small chunk of change. It's
That
pretty
is a
significant.
that's a huge market for people doing all kinds of betting.
Yep. And Herc said it quite well. By the way, shout out to Herc. Good to see you, broski. Price manipulation and FUD is definitely happening. Most definitely. Yeah, like people that have voices, that have influence, you have to watch what they say and you have to watch what they do. It's nice when their actions align with their words. Like, take Saylor for instance. He's just doing nothing but talking bullish on Bitcoin, and he's buying Bitcoin. But JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock, all of these, Larry Fink, all these other folks, they were poo-pooing Bitcoin for the longest time while also buying it. They're the sneaky snakes. They're the people that you don't want to trust. Part of the special kids club that you're not in. So those are the guys that are going to be fudding the bags and buying, and they're going to be the guys that are going to be talking about how it's awesome and selling. So it's important to know who you are listening to, and try and read into, are they trying to get me to take an action so they can do the opposite, right? Are they trying to trick me to take my money, or trick me to sell the thing that they want so they can get it? It's always a question of, like, what are people doing, and are they trying to exert power over me so that they can get more power away from me? By the way, Mr. Angry Twinkie all the way, said that you had a good one, Brendan. Smaller losses now for current taxes buffers your big loss to offset big gains. So it's important to use all the tools to the best of your advantage. If you choose to use these things that are made available to you, then hey, you can find yourself having an excellent and awesome time. And he also said conditions before probabilities and probabilities before outcomes. That is very wise indeed as well.
That's
And
interesting.
we've also been joined by Mr. Moondog. What's up, Mr. Moondog? Who says, "Howdy, rowdies. Good to see you, broski. Welcome to the stream." And we've been indeed also joined by Mr. B Yacht and all, who says, "Trump, the peacemaker in chief. Hopefully, we don't see any more wars."
He changed his name. Did his last one get banned?
No, so StreamYard is now showing the full YouTube names. So
okay.
Moonpilled Rational Optics. It's got the numbers in there.
Okay,
This is just
you're right. Yeah.
I don't know what StreamYard's doing. It might be a StreamYard thing. It might be a YouTube thing. But Richard Hart trying to trick me into selling my full chain?
The answer is no, by the way. Richard Hart is explicitly trying to tell people to keep their core coins, even with the new sacrifice going on. That is the rationale behind why the core tokens were not used in the sacrifice. Did it have kind of a backwards effect when people were like, new sacrifice, got to get on it. No dry capital. Sell Pulse Chain. It's like, no. Why? Please don't do that.
I mean, I did maybe drop a couple grand this week on some core coins.
Yeah,
if I'm already deep if they're already deep and the prices at all-time lows, I have to buy some more. I still believe, by the way. So
down, baby.
Yeah,
I'm not in this for the long term. I'm not in this for the short term. By the way, find yourself a wife that brings you up a Jameson while you're streaming.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Most excellent. Cheers to you, Brendan. Cheers to the wife.
Can I
cheers
say
to everyone finding these delicious prices, man. Like, yeah, the prices have been low. If you like the thing and the price is low and you want more of it, then it's the best time to buy. If you like the thing and the price is high, but you want money, then it's a good time to sell. If you like the thing and the price is low and you're sad and you're got some pulse as well, monkeys. Good to see Mr. Boogie. Most excellent. Yeah, like buy the things that you like when they're cheap and sell the things that you don't like when they're expensive. And if you sell while you're sad and you're lower than when you entered, then you're guaranteeing a loss. And as long as you just don't do that thing, then you don't have any guaranteed loss. You just have theoretical loss. Like all these folks that are sitting on all these assets that have bought the top and that are now down bad because price has been going down because they bought during euphoria and stuff. So it's good to see all you folks with us today. And I also have been doing some degenerate buying of Hex among other things as well. So it's been a good recent past for me. So I think that covers the altcoin stuff pretty well. There was also something I wanted to go through. What's up?
Can I ask a quick question before you go into that? It kind of ties into ends the conversation that we've having between Bitcoin and alts and the market in general. Zenith, a few weeks ago, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on, but a few weeks ago, you and I talked about us thinking that, the bull market still had like a 90% chance to continue. So we reset, we look at the current prices, we look at the closings beneath the 58 SMA 2 weeks in a row. We look at other things, and then on the other side, we look at some potentially bullish news when it comes to GDP, markets, interest rate cuts. What's your percentage currently that you think the bull market could continue versus we are definitely into a bear market?
Well, let's go find Twinkie's comment because I think he hit it right on the head there. Conditions before probabilities, probabilities before outcomes. Okay, what are the conditions on the ground? Conditions on the ground are we have time-wise lined up very nicely with 4-year cycle, which was the predominant theory beforehand. So, what was that? October 6th or October 3rd or something? We had the all-time high. That lines up very nicely with the time. When it comes to our technicals, we are now having our second close on the weekly chart below the 50-day moving average, which traditionally is a very good indicator of bull market being over. Okay, outside of that, other conditions on the ground. Didn't quite see many of the targets that people were looking at for Bitcoin. 124K was a very low target. Ethereum only ever hit its all-time high one time. Solana had its all-time high, over a year ago at this point. So the overall conditions of the market are not screaming market top, but we do have time and we do have one technical indicator. As far as our top indicators, none of them got even close to hitting. Pi cycle top, not even close. MVRVZ score, not even close. If you want to go look at the rainbow bands, we did not see the higher levels that we were looking for to indicate a top either. Additionally, when it comes to like just even some of the other fundamentals, like RSI on Bitcoin, sure, it got up there, but there were those like screaming parabolic moves that we've seen in the past. Okay, that could also indicate a different condition in the market, which is saying that the market is behaving fundamentally differently this time. Okay, if that's the case, then why are we caring about all these other indicators that I've just told you that have hit, like time and then our technical for the 50-week moving average? We have some indicator or some conditions showing that the probability of hitting cycle top is high. We have other conditions that show that the probability of this being a normal cycle is low. So it's kind of just conflicting signals all around, but at the same time, to give you the probability for it, honestly, I think it's probably like a 50-50 at this point, just because the trend was confirmed. And in order to break out of it, it's going to require a confirmation of breaking the existing trend, which has actually validated itself based on time and then the 50-week moving average technical.
If I was an institution, by the way, fantastic answer, Zenith. You kind of pretty much hit everything on the head. You missed one thing. Coinbase didn't get to number 1 in the App Store.
That's true. I forgot.
But if I was an institution, if I was Binance, if I was BlackRock, if I was these, large people making moves and moving the market, wouldn't I know that these crypto bros are looking at the 4-year cycle? And wouldn't I potentially want to use that against them to be able to scoop coins up in a cheap fashion? So do not overestimate these big players playing you more than you think that they are. So I'm just saying that that there's a lot of possibilities where they're playing the crypto bros. They're trying to play us, our emotions, our 4-year cycle. And every year, every cycle, there's this big drop at some point. Granted, it's usually before this, but we never got a Bitcoin all-time high before a halving before. So look, things break, right? And so they could be using our emotions against us to get more coins before we blast off. Now, that's certainly a possibility. So I still have a slightly higher, I'm generally more of a bull. I've been looking currently at a 60-40. I'm still 60% on the bullish narrative, 40% on the bearish. But again, if you asked me a month ago, I was like 98% bullish. So I've certainly come down, but I'm still strong in the bullish market, but I'm paying attention. Again, for me, if it is the bear market and we go into January, I get a big bonus and I'm able to scoop up a lot of lows. Like, for me, win-win, like whatever. I'm in this for the long term. And, I wasn't expecting to retire this cycle. And if I did, that would have been wonderful. I've always had a 10-year plan in crypto, and I've not been in crypto for 10 years yet. So this 4-year cycle was all about me stacking coins. And, we'll see. But again, you have to have a long-term outlook, because the longer your outlook, the less your heart is going to hurt. Now, I remember my first cycle. It was emotional. I remember, and I told this story early on when the Degen Roundtable first started. I remember early on, I'm buying on the way up to last all-time high. We hit all-time high. I'm in a ton of profit. Like, I don't want to even say. We open a bottle of $500 whiskey. Me and my buddy pop some Cubans on my balcony, and we're sitting there with like this, way more expensive a whiskey than I could even imagine. These cigars that I've never even heard of before from Cuba, and we're celebrating. But in reality, I wasn't knowledgeable enough yet to realize that the celebration isn't a one-day thing. It's like, what is the market going to do next, and what is my plan next? So every time that new information comes into the market, I need to change my outlook and I need to change my plan. And that wasn't what I was doing before. And so I was just like highest of highs, lowest of lows. And now it's like I'm pretty even keeled, and I'm just looking at the information, and changing my plan day to day, week to week, month to month as data comes in. So that's really the way you need to do. You need to separate your emotions. You need to look at that information and decide what you're going to do with it. But don't just feel that you're definitely doing this or definitely doing that, because you're not going to be right 100% of the time. So go with it and then make your decision.
I think it was, I want to give a shout out to Charlie from Cultivate Crypto, because I remember one time I was taking one of their classes and he said, if you keep a journal of what the prices are and what you feel like doing at that particular time, and then you look back at it and like if you can chart it, even better, you know. So that's one of the things that I do nowadays
Yeah.
is I will literally put a green marker on the chart, like a horizontal line that starts from now and goes off into infinity in the future, and I lock it there. I pin it there so it can't move. And then like whenever I feel great, I put like a green, and when I feel bad, I put a red. And wouldn't you know it, most of my green ones are at tops and most of my red ones are at bottoms. And so if I just buy when I'm feeling really bad and I sell when I'm feeling really good, then over a period of time, I'm making some profits and things. And so it's just like you really do have to separate your emotions from your actions and like the price and everything. That was just very your story, Brendan, is very similar to mine. I was like a Bitcoin maximalist my first cycle around, and I was just like, whoa, this stuff just keeps going up and up and up. And I was making boatloads of money at the time because we were stacking towers like crazy, and just like we were working 90-hour weeks, and I was getting so crazy overtime. And like I was just fucking dumping money into Bitcoin just all the way up to the top. And then it started going down. And then like coincidentally, all of our work started disappearing. And so we started slowing down, going back to 40-hour weeks. And so I had less like fungible cash at the time. And I remember like watching my portfolio go down while also getting less money every week, and also being like, what's going on? Like the number's going down. It's never gone down before. Like I just bought and bought and bought the entire like 3 years it was going up. And it was just like the craziest. I think it was, I don't remember the years or anything, but I know that I started it at like 20,000, and I was buying all the way up to 64,000. And that was it was before the last bear market. So I don't exactly recall everything, but I know that it was a crazy time, man. So it's important to separate your emotions from your person. What do you got, Z?
Oh,
Or
Brendan, go for it.
Brendan, sorry.
You're good.
One last thing, Zenith. You could say there's a 4-year cycle, but every time the 4-year cycle's topped, it's also been the time that the global liquidity is topped. So, we really don't know yet if it's a 4-year cycle or if Bitcoin is following global liquidity. So if the global liquidity is going to increase in 2026, then there is a good chance that the 4-year cycle isn't what we thought it was. I don't think I would say it's completely gone. But I would just say that it's different than we anticipated, and maybe the global money cycle holds more weight than the 4-year cycle. So that's another potential, check mark for the bulls.
Agreed. And by the way, I'm with you, which is I want to be more bullish, but at the same time, the reason that I gave you that 50-50 prediction is partly due to kind of the idea of like one in the hand is worth two in the bush, which is it's more of the usual wisdom for like things in life. But at the same time, we are absolutely in a speculative market, meaning that we are making speculative positions, whether it's for short term or long term. But at the same time, to go back to two in the hand, one in the bush. Will, you mind pulling up the tweet that I sent you there?
Yes, I got it right here, amigo. So
this is the sentiment that we are contending with. So looking at what we got here, Bitcoin is about to close its second consecutive weekly below the 50 EMA. In 2018 and 2022, this resulted in another 50% dump. The only way Bitcoin won't dump is if the 4-year cycle is dead. That last sentence there has a little more context to it that it needs, which is that the only way this doesn't happen is if Bitcoin breaks a 16-year-long trend, the only trend it has had for the entirety of the market. Granted, Brendan, you bring up a great point there, which is like we've had a lot of confluence with the global liquidity supply. So if you want to go off that theory, well, right now liquidity is actually kind of low, especially considering we're going to be stopping quantitative tightening. So we've pretty much reached the lowest amount of liquidity that we've seen. There's even been a lot of talk about this just in the macro markets. Like the banks actually met with the Federal Reserve to discuss the amount of liquidity going on and just the availability of borrowing money at this point. It seems very, very low. So going off that theory, which is that we are more tied to global liquidity, well, we are looking like we might be entering a period where global liquidity is going to be going up. If that is the case, then, well, yeah, there you go. Bitcoin should go up in theory right alongside it. But at the same time, though, one in the hand, two in the bush. The one in the hand right now is that we have a top lining up with time, and that we have a confirmation of the existing pattern as well. The two in the bush could be an outsized return, in my opinion, especially if we get up to that 150, maybe even that 200 level, which are getting lower percentage probabilities for me as well. But at the same time, that is the decision that's being made right now. People are looking at themselves and trying to figure out, do I stick with the plan, or do I look at the conditions on the ground and go with the potential conditions on the ground, or do I go with the thing that has been proven over time? So I think that we all know that at some point the 4-year cycle will die. Is it this time? I don't know. Conditions suggest it's, like I said, it kind of looks like a coin toss to me right now. But the existing prevailing narrative does appear to be in effect. At the same time, though, all it takes is a little confirmation or a little extra movement outside of it to confirm that, nope, it actually is broken instead.
We got a chat here from Moondog, who says, "Shout out to Sami. Among all the craziness, he was asking people to start asking themselves, what will they do when Bitcoin hits 120,000 and everyone's arguing over tops?" And this was 2 to 3 years ago. So it's like this is not the first time this was thought of, you know. So we
It's
are
not.
in that hot seat moment right now.
Yeah, at the same time, though, the what is the conversation that we've had for the last 2-3 years? We were looking at those upwards price targets. I think a lot of us around here said that 124 is a very low price target, and that somewhere around that 152, 154 area was our pretty much like 50% target for what we believe is the most probable. And then after that, we started looking towards those higher things with like 180, like 186, 188, based on the data we had at the time. That was looking like maybe like a 30, 20% chance kind of thing. And then breaking 200 and even getting to that crazy Richard Hart top of 241K, we gave that probably like less than a 10% chance as well. So
that was blow off the top. Yeah.
Blow off top. Yeah. Which, as it stands right now, I don't think we've seen that. And the chart, I think, also shows that as well, which is that this is not, gosh, which we covered it on a show recently, I think. It was looking at how parabolic the cycles have gotten. All the previous cycles have gotten rather parabolic at the end, like even more than parabolic. This one, we only saw a possible approaching parabolic stage once, which was back in November of 2024. And then also initially it approached it as well when we had the ETF pump back in February and March of 2024 as well. So, hey, market's behaving differently this time around. And the data proves it in a lot of different points.
Good point.
By the way, we've got a super chat, a fantastic super chat from Mr. Psycho Crypto 23. Great show, guys. Will, you guys hiring? It looks like I got to get back to work. Lol. I was an electrician for 18 years, but looking for something different. Unfortunately, amigo, I just got sent home because we ran out of tower work very abruptly. We were on a tower knocking over campaign, and we knocked 4 of them over. And then the guys we were working for, they were like, "Hey, we don't know if we want you doing this for us anymore." So they sent our entire company home, and it's like, oh, well, shit. So now I'm hanging out with a good friend of mine over here at Magnus Motorsports, and I'm assisting them with their shop functionality. So my tower company is not currently hiring. We just lost all of our work that was supposed to last us the next 3 months. So no more of that, and time for hopping around. But it's good to see you, Mr. Psycho Crypto, and thank you very much for the super chat. I wish we were hiring, and I wish we could help. Also, we've been joined by Mr. Funkmaster Hex, who says, "Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, sir."
Always
Mr. Funkmaster Hex, the Trailer Park Boys Julian of the Hexico and crypto space. So
I am really sad. You mentioned that all the names have changed on StreamYard/YouTube. Well, Mr. Funkmaster Hex does not have his little glass after his name anymore, and that saddens me.
It is sad, but I'm quite certain that YouTube will fix it. It's not the first time that YouTube has done this before, so this is likely a temporary problem with a soon to have permanent, or at least slightly permanent solution. But Yeah, it is. It is good to see that his name hasn't changed in the spelling, but we are sad to see the emoji gone. But right on. Oh, follow up from Psycho Crypto. Right on. Towerworks sounds fun. Gonna hit up Fort Worth IBEW then. Ooh, that's good to hear. The IBEW. I've heard that name before, but I'm over here in I'm currently over in Rockwall / Royce City area, so we might have to do a meetup at some point in the near future once I get my bank account back up to an appropriate level for going out and doing things again. But it's good to see a fellow Dallas Fort Worth area gentleman. And also we've been joined by Mr. Moonmutt, who says, "Good evening, my Degen friends." Shout out to Moonmutt, good real life friend of mine. I finally got his Degen Roundtable stickers over to him after dilly dallying for probably like 3 or 4 months. Or actually, shoot, it may even have been longer than that. But he had sent me an address and I hadn't realized it. So shout out to Moonmutt. Glad that you like your stickers, broski, and we'll definitely have to hang out next time I'm up in your area again. But to bring it back to this 4-year cycle talk that you were speaking of, with the only way that Bitcoin won't dump is if the 4-year cycle is dead. I am curious to see what will happen with this 4-year cycle. I don't know if I ever really fully bought into the 4-year cycle narrative. It kind of seemed like oh, this is like a convenient thing and it does happen a lot, but it was never really an exact science. I suppose that I would like to say that 16 years of a pattern is a pretty good length of time, but the fact that it only repeated itself, 3 or 4 times is kind of like, oh, well, it's a pattern until it isn't anymore, and it seems that like now it might not be. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I wanna end the show on a more positive note. Do you guys have any further thoughts on this? And I wanna do a
positive. We're still bullish, baby. Let's go. Next topic.
Yeah, so the next topic that I have is this is a good story, right? So we've got a 1 in 180 million gentleman hobbyist miner beats 1 in 180 million odds to win $265,000 worth of Bitcoin using just one old ASIC. And so for those of you guys that don't know what an ASIC is, oh shit, I used to remember application specific integrated computer, I think is what ASIC stands for. So it's basically a computer that can do one thing and one thing only, and
yes.
and that thing is just mine Bitcoin. So it's pretty nifty, the fact that this guy, who's not part of a mining pool, not part of anything, just got his own little Bitcoin block mined. And yeah, so oh man, I get rid of this damn advertisement. So a lone Bitcoin miner with only 6 terahashes per second of hash power mined a full Bitcoin block, earning 3.14, almost a pi number of Bitcoin plus fees worth nearly $265,000. Miner had just a 1 in 180 million chance of solving a block on any given day, controlling over 0.1234566 of a Bitcoin's total network hash power. This event marks one of the luckiest solo mine blocks in recent memory, highlighting the rarity of such occurrences as Bitcoin's hash rate continues to climb. I want to say that earlier on, a couple months ago, there was also a single miner that mined a block. I want to say that we covered it on Degen Roundtable, but
a couple months ago.
Yeah, I could be Mandela affecting myself, but I'm almost positive that this happened. That it happened a couple months ago as well.
Last time I remember this was last cycle.
Last cycle? Okay.
I could be wrong though. I mean, I hadn't seen this one yet, so
yeah, it might have just been one of the things that I saw, because I've frequently perused crypto news and I forward the campfire stories over to the Degen Roundtable before shows, and I think I might have seen one in there or something like that. I don't. Cool to see, just a single player get that lucky dice roll. So not a whole lot of thought to be had on this topic, but I wanted to open up on like a nice little positive note of like, what are the odds of Zenith hitting a hole in one and an ASIC miner getting his own Bitcoin, and like all this crazy cool awesome stuff happening, and we get a bunch of super chats all in one show. There's a whole bunch of great things going on, so I just wanted to I wanted to bring in some like definitive positivity and stuff. What do you guys
Yeah.
thought?
By the way, Moondog has an excellent comment here.
Oh yeah.
He says this article brought to you by some dude with a bunch of old ASICs that he's trying to get rid of.
Mm.
He's trying, it could be you.
That's funny.
There you go. This guy is actually a salesman. So is oh man, that would be the best FOMO kind of article
His
ever.
name's. He also wrote the article about
Oh, okay.
himself. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking, but
Oh, that would be super funny. Diamond Hand Degenerate says it was at least 6 months ago. I remember too, someone getting a
Okay.
lucky block. Okay, so it did happen also again. Good to see you, by the way, Diamond Hand Degenerate. Welcome to the show, broski. But yeah, this stuff it's always kind of like nice to see, like, yeah, the underdog sticks it to the big man and gets his whole thing. So I hope that Homie was able to recoup all of the losses of running that ASIC miner in his mom's basement for years and years and years and years. I don't know how much electricity costs that is, but that's actually another thing that we can talk about is that the hash rate has dropped to one of the lowest prices right now. I think it's $35 per petahash per second, which I don't know what that means, but normally it's in like the 60s and the 50s. Occasionally goes up to like 80, 85, but this is the lowest it's been in a long time. But anyways, Zenith, Brendan, you guys have thoughts on this good news?
it's great news. I mean,
Yeah, it is fantastic news. Absolutely big shout out to this guy who just hit this freaking lottery ticket effectively, kind of. But look, if you're actually using ASICs, you are in the game to a degree. I'm not saying that you're going to be able to rival the power that the entirety of China has with their hydroelectric dam that is pretty much solely responsible for Bitcoin mining. But at the same time, this kind of stuff is cool when it happens. But I will say it's a question of what were the conditions going on here. The guy had an ASIC, so he's in the game. I will say I've been seeing a good chunk of advertisements on like social media platforms and stuff for people who are like, oh, you can buy a Bitcoin miner. This is the equivalent of a lottery ticket. It's like, oh, if you can solve it yourself, it'll get you like $250,000. But then it's also like some little like Raspberry Pi looking thing. And I'm like, lottery ticket is an overstatement. Like you're just not even in the same ballpark. You're not playing the same game. Like the amount of power and the amount of computing power that is required to actually be legitimately in this game, it takes so much. So like even with this guy, like that is what did you say? It was 7 zeros and then a 7. That is the decimal of 1% that he had the chance of hitting that. It is ridiculously low. So like cool story. Absolutely. Again, shout out to this guy. Congratulations. Enjoy your $250,000 you got from it. But at the same time, though, I think it's definitely a question of, are these people who know what they're doing, or are these people that are being sold the dream?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's-
Yep.
it's
That's a
for-
good way to put it. Go ahead, Brendan.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was gonna say, no, you're right, Zenith. Like, it's a great story. Don't necessarily suggest going and buying. By the way, I'd call that a counterfeit lottery ticket, because there's zero chance you're getting one of these little things in mining a block. However, if I had access to really, really cheap electricity or free electricity, as some people do, I probably would take the chance, because the setup to set up an ASIC, that doesn't cost necessarily a lot of money. The issue is like, what do you have to pay for your electricity to mine that day over day after day after day after day, week after week, year after year, to be able to luckily, probably not, mine a full block. But if I didn't have to pay for the electricity, if I was skimming off somebody else's, not that I suggest doing that, I'd fucking try myself.
There was Airbnb had to add a stipulation in their codes that's like, Bitcoin mining is forbidden in Airbnb houses, because people would rent out an Airbnb for like $100 a day, and they'd roll up with a fucking just cases and cases and cases of Bitcoin miners. They'd plug it into every orifice in the house, and they would fucking run up like a $4,000 electricity bill in a day. And then they would just pack up and leave, and the host would be stuck with this fucking bill. And so it's the kind of thing that only a couple people can get away with. And there is no such thing as free electricity unless you're a government, or unless you're close to the government. or yeah, or if you know you find a way, right? Set up perhaps set up your own little wind turbine out in Oklahoma somewhere, or I don't know, maybe even just put put one of those water wheels on a stream near your house, and then hook up an alternator to it, and then plug that into your little Raspberry Pi. Then maybe you get free electricity. But I don't know. I still don't think that it's a worthwhile endeavor. But it's really cool to see these like 1 in a million odds, and the point that Moondog makes of it being like, yeah, this article brought to you by some dude who's trying to sell some things. It's like, yeah, absolutely. These things are not a good financial decision to buy into because of the amount of consumption that you have to use in order to make it effective. The reason that like the mining pools, the communist way of doing Bitcoin mining, is effective is because somebody in the pool wins the Bitcoin and it gets dispersed through everyone based on their hash power that they're contributing to the total, whatever the hell. And some of the mining pools have got so big that I think the top two mining pools, if they combine forces, they would have over 50% of the mining power in the Bitcoin network. Like there's some potential problems that could come with that, but it was one of the nice things that I thought that I wanted to bring up for the show today.
I
And
will say this is a fun article because it actually gives me a little bit of nostalgia. It
yeah,
reminds me of a time it feels so long ago, but it's really not all that long ago, which is, I don't know if you guys remember the 2021 cycle, but that was back when Ethereum was still under proof of work instead of proof of stake. And one of the big narratives going on there was that people were trying to just buy up a bunch of graphics cards and create their own miners that way. And then also just, again, the narrative of like, we're using so much electricity for this crypto stuff. It was something that people could rally against and be like, oh, you're destroying the environment. And then also the gamer, this is one of the things that actually like made the gaming community rather pessimistic of crypto overall. And I haven't really seen that sentiment change a whole bunch, because around the same time, this is just coming out of the old COVID era. NVIDIA released, I want to say it was their 3000 series GPUs, and everyone was super excited about these because they look good. The performance looked incredible. The price was also fantastic. But then, because crypto people were buying up GPUs for mining, they absolutely cornered the market. And then all these consumers who just wanted graphics cards to, use in their computers literally could not buy graphics cards because all the crypto folks had the money to throw around. So they bought sniping bots to snipe the releases of these products. They also had the money to pay kind of like the overinflated cost for everything. And if you looked at the secondary market, these things were selling at for multiples of what their retail price was. Gosh, that was back in like 2021, 2022. So not that long ago, but it kind of feels like a little bit of a blast from the past thinking about this stuff, because we don't hear about mining a whole lot these days. Bitcoin really is the last bastion for mining, and that's pretty much it.
That was with the Ethereum mining, I think, is what GPUs are being used for. But
Yes.
So thankfully, Ethereum has moved into validating and is no longer needs GPUs. So that whole market cornering of the GPU like stealing is like, what an interesting time in history. Someone should document that, because I don't know if that has been documented super well. But
what the computer chip manufacturers have been doing, their story, their game, the narrative has been changing over the last few years, because again, 2021, 2022, GPUs are being used for Ethereum mining. Ethereum price is skyrocketing, incentivizing people to get more and more into it. You used to be able to use graphics cards and just normal consumer computers for Bitcoin mining, but then the ASICs were the ones that actually kind of made those obsolete, just because the pure amount of raw power you could get out of it was so much higher. So then we see computer chip manufacturers going from GPUs to ASICs, and then the whole shift away from Ethereum proof of work allowed them to maybe work on all the AI stuff. And now we have all the AI chips, which are just gargantuan in terms of power and what they output and what power is required to even put into them. So it's interesting to follow that whole market and what they keep up with there. So curious to see what they do next. But as it stands right now, yeah, NVIDIA is all in on making them AI chips.
Hell yeah, man. Quick shout out, by the way, to the folks in the chats from Moondog. Are these the people who know what they're doing? This is in reference to the folks buying miners and stuff. Or are they people being sold a dream? I have a litmus test for checking this in the Hexagon community. Wait, what is a t-shirt again? And why should I care? Yes, that's a good litmus
Well
test
said,
for hanging out with the Hexkins. Also, we've been joined by Mr. Hexglen, who says hello. Hey, Degens, what's up, Hexglen? Good to see you, buddy. Good sticker winner. Awesome Degen aficionado right there. And also, we've been joined by Mr. West. Shout out to West. Sup, Degen gang, trying to catch a quick watch while at work. Absolutely good to see you, Mr. West. I hope you are fixing up people and doing a fantastic job over in the health sector. Welcome, broski. Glad we could have you while you're at work, man. That's freaking awesome. So that's what I've got for that article. Let's see. So I've mentioned the Bitcoin hash rate. Are you guys interested in the fact that Mastercard is partnering up with Polygon for username transfers for self-custody wallets? As far as I'm concerned, it's very similar to like the .eth usernames and stuff that happens on Ethereum. But is that something that piques your guys' curiosity? Mastercard partnering with Polygon?
Polygon. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time.
Yeah. So check this out. So basically, the TLDR is that Mastercard and Polygon Labs, and also a service named Mercurio, is bringing verified alias-based identities to self-custody wallets, simplifying crypto transfers, advancing the next generation of global payments. Now, for those of you guys that don't know what this means, but are familiar with will.eth or vitalik.eth or whatever the heck that like, there's usernames that exists where you can type in a person's name in .eth or .pls.fyi or other such thing, and it will bring up their wallet or whatever. Now, what Mastercard is doing is they're partnering with Polygon to create these expanding self-custody wallets, replacing the long wallet addresses with verified username style aliases. So Polygon is the first blockchain network to natively support this functionality, chosen for speed, reliability, and payment-focused architecture. Mercurio is going to be onboarding verified users and issuing credentials, while Polygon provides the instant low-cost infrastructure required for global-scale identity and payments. And together, this brings self-custody into the mainstream, intuitive user experience, and trusted verification. So I think that this is it's interesting that MasterCard's doing this. And I do like that the traditional payment system is partnering up with blockchain in order to allow for quicker payment transfers, because my God, is Swift and bank to bank and wire and all that stuff just terrible and horrible. But as far as I'm concerned, this stuff already exists on Ethereum. It already exists on Pulse Chain. This stuff isn't exactly new tech. So I guess maybe it's what's that meme of oh shoot. Who's the guy who's like, "What's up, fellow kids? How's it going?" or whatever.
How do
He's
you do,
holding,
my fellow kids?
Yeah. It's like
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi. Yeah, with the skateboard over his shoulder, trying to fit in with the kid. That's what I see with Mastercard and Polygon doing this. But yeah, I've also not heard of Polygon in a long, long time. So
I have a very similar sentiment to you, which is this is something that's been done before. It also raises the question, why now? Why care? Why are we pushing this? So it's if you're trying to get Polygon back in the spotlight, I don't know if this is quite the win that you think it is.
The reason that I bring it up is because it's Mastercard, not because of Polygon. So okay. Mastercard being the traditional finance, vector of crypto credit cards and blah blah blah, they're not using the ENS, the Ethereum naming service. They're using Polygon. So it's okay, they're using Polygon. I don't really care about that, but this thing has existed before. But now we have a traditional finance monetary thing that's pushing into the crypto space. So even though they chose a chain that is whatever centralized and what's the joke that Polygon's run by 13 Indian dudes or something like that, it's not exactly the most secure, decentralized or admirable chain there is, but the fact that there's something moving in this direction is kind of interesting and curious to me. And I've been seeing a lot of news recently about Mastercard and Visa specifically moving their little tendrils into the blockchain space. So I think that while it is kind of asinine, it's in the right direction, and there is cool stuff happening. So Brendan, do you have any thoughts about TradFi moving into the blockchain space?
I mean, let's not forget Polygon's an L2 built on what blockchain?
It's Ethereum. Yeah.
So it's not surprising that they're choosing, a player within the Ethereum ecosystem to work with. Polygon, Matic, the old name. I mean, I haven't been high on them in quite some time, so this is interesting. And good for them if something big comes out of it. But nonetheless, it's a win for the Ethereum network, which is big for me. As long as people are building on Ethereum, that's good for me. Now, I just want to give one shout out to Vitalik. Could you please, for the love of God, have L2s pay you a little bit more money than they're currently paying Ethereum? Please.
It's free real estate.
It's free real estate.
Literally.
I
wish my old Miami apartment was as free as the L2s on Ethereum.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But yeah, I think that it's a cool step in the right direction. I would like to see this be more decentralized and in a better network. Hey, Mastercard, why don't you go talk to Pulse Chain? Just kidding. I don't think they'd be interested in hanging out with us over here. Probably have to have more centralization and more shut off capability and whatnot for them to be interested in things. But anyways, that was all my thoughts on that particular article. And let's see. Oh, we've also been joined by Mr. Pulse Jitsu Fast Abdul, who lets us know that he is here for the tech and he wants to know our secrets. Good sir, if we had any secrets, we would probably be telling you in the green room instead of telling you publicly, because that's the way that secrets work, is their best kept secret. But it's good to see you, Mr. Fast Abdul. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us last week. That was super duper fun and awesome. The only thing I have left here is that Bitcoin's about to close. Oh no, we already covered that. About to close its second consecutive weekly candle below the EMA 50. We didn't touch about Bitcoin hitting the 33 RSI on the weekly chart. Is that important? Does that merit recognition at all, do you think, Z or Brendan?
The TLDR on that is that this is the lowest that the weekly RSI for Bitcoin has been in 3 years, effectively. It kind of just ties back into a lot of the stuff we talked about previously, which is like Bitcoin fear and greed, the amount of just absolute sell pressure and the giant liquidation event going on. It just shows how the overall market is feeling, especially because it's RSI. So it is a sentiment indicator and just a relative strength indicator. So look, if you're part of the folks that believe that either it's a dead cat bounce coming or it could be an actual recovery from an overly down position, whether artificial or real, it's another indicator to show you that like we are really suppressed and we're only at like 80. I think we just got up to 88K while we were live on the stream.
Yeah.
Down to 80K. Gosh, what was that, yesterday or something?
Yep.
This down and we're only at 80K. There's a pretty good argument to make that like a pretty hefty recovery is inbound at some point. Time-wise, that's a big debate. But as far as overall sentiment, it is just another thing that shows like it is so down.
It's another one of those conditions that you were talking about earlier. It kind of just goes, hand in hand as a condition of, hey, we could recover and get back to all-time highs. So, man, it's hard because it sees how many people have struggled this cycle, because it's been the hardest cycle to ever be in crypto by far, not even question. Like if you weren't a Bitcoin heavy holder, if you didn't buy Solana at $20 or $10, and then watch it run up, if you didn't catch one of those meme coins like WIF on this cycle, like there wasn't a lot that went up. So for most people, it's been challenging. But if we're not done yet, then the institutions are just buying your bags and you're never going to win. So, if you want to take some profits and you have them there, take some profits. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I wouldn't say get rid of all of your positions, because if we're going to have a reversal, then there's a potential to go, 20% higher than 124, 126 in the midterm, short term to midterm. And then who knows what happens in 26, because the market's wild. The macro market, I'm talking about the macro market, is wild right now, and it could go anywhere. We don't know what's going to happen. So, strap in.
It's absolutely fucking true. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a good time. And we've had a great time today. This has been an excellent show, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. Before we hop on out of here, Mr. Zenith, Mr. Brendan, starting with Brendan, where can the folks find you And what have you got going on in the near future, good sir?
You can find me wherever X tells you my location is.
Yes. Oh man, we did not even cover that,
We
did
didn't
we?
cover
Man,
that.
that's
No,
fucking
we
bullshit.
didn't.
X putting out locations. I only just like recently saw that, but yeah, I
Yeah.
guess freaking X shows locations now, shows the countries that you're in. So that's
General
pretty cool.
region. Now you can
The
go to your
general
settings and you can change your like local region to general region. So instead
Yeah.
of saying like, okay, you're in like the Southeast United States, it's like, okay, you're in North America.
Yep.
Okay, so that's at least 3 countries, like, but anyway, neither here nor there. You can find me wherever X tells you where I am. And you can find me in our Telegram, which you should join if you are not in there. And then you can find me not getting hole-in-ones like Zenith because he's a fucking boss. And full circle, baby, full circle. And that's about all I got. Honestly, been good to come back. Hey, are we gonna have a show on Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving?
Yeah, sure.
The
I'll
drunkest night of
be
the
on.
year, by the way. Have you noticed?
I will be on. I'll have.
I will be preparing food for Thanksgiving. However, I might be able to take an hour break to come have a couple drinks with the boys.
All right, sweet. I will
Sounds
be
good.
hosting something on Wednesday, the Thanksgiving Eve. I don't know what I will be doing, but I will be doing something. So you guys can catch us over here. By the way, you guys can catch us every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. We start this show at 8 p.m. Eastern, and that's what we do here on the Degen Roundtable. So come chill out. Come find Brendan over at anonymous_bean on X. And you can also find him in the Degen Roundtable Telegram, which you guys should totally join by clicking that link that's in the live chats right now. For those of you guys that are listening or on replay, gang, it is t.me/DRT, Delta Romeo Tango. DRT, join now. So come on over, come chat with us, come share some memes, come show some pictures of your favorite guns. I know that we had Boogie in here for a good bit talking about the HK53, and man, I forgot about that gun. That's a beautiful fucking gun. For those of you guys that don't know, the MP5 is chambered in 9mm, but the HK-G53 is essentially just an MP5 in 5.56. So that's a fucking fantastic rolling block action weapon right there. I love to see
Is it 5.56? I thought it was 308 for some reason.
Oh, dude, it's 5.56. 308 is the HK-G3. So the G3
Oh,
is the
okay.
308 version. That's their battle rifle. But the HK-53 is the one that's in 5.56. So much more manageable recoil, much less
still a shorty.
heavy. Yeah, still a shorty. Oh yeah, it's got a little bitty barrel. But yeah, that's a beautiful fucking weapon. So Zenith, where can the folks find you and what have you got going on in the near future?
Folks, you can find me over on X and Instagram at ZenithDI. Outside of that, you can find me here on all of our streams, which, by the way, we do have a Whiskey Wednesday coming up on Wednesday, as we have mentioned here, but also on Friday. Will, are we still good for book club?
We are indeed good for book club. I will be there. I'll be present. I'll be ready.
Excellent. So will I. And this week, we're going to be covering the great accounting frauds, the common theme that runs through them all. So we're going to be doing a little bit of financial investigation and forensics, if you will, trying to see what is the common theme between fraud and be trying to apply a little bit of that to the crypto market and see if we can identify it, or at least identify the things that are ripe for fraud so that we can, avoid those and make good decisions. But
who's it written by?
That is written by Joe McGuire. McGuire. McGuire.
Got it. It has been added
in this last Friday book club. The author may or may not have shouted you two out.
Yes.
Yeah, we did get a shout out.
That was pretty sick,
bro. That was so fucking cool, man. So I'm a big fan of Brendan Joe Williams and all the stuff that he's doing in Picoteria. The stuff about infinite money, the stuff about getting free cars, the stuff about removing your citizenship and instead being U.S. national and having more rights and things, the difference between people and persons, like all of the stuff that he covers is super fantastic and awesome. So when I posted that book club, I tagged his name in it. It's like, hey, we're doing a book club covering, the Guide to the Most Beautiful Woman in the World, the United States of America, by him, and I tagged him. And then he went on to shout out our show and be like, "This is some great analysis and a great job by these folks." And I was like, "Oh my god, bro, we got shouted out by the author." So That was fucking awesome. So thank you, Brandon Joe Williams. I doubt that you're watching this, but that was super cool to be shouted out by the author, who's a pretty famous dude. I know he gets like millions of views over on Instagram and Facebook for his stuff about like infinite money and free cars and other such things. But yeah, super cool and awesome. But Zenith, you were saying that the book that we're doing is The Great Accounting Frauds by Joe McGuire, and that's going to be this Friday. So you guys can come over and check us out over here. Did you have anything else you wanted to shout out, Z?
Nope. Outside of that, we're just gonna be back on next Sunday for our usual flagship news show. Hopefully, we maybe have some better news, and I'm not gonna sit there and be like, "Well, this is our third weekly close below the 50-day moving, the 50-week moving average." But we'll just have to see. If anything, I would be surprised if sentiment gets even more down than it has been over the last week or two. So, hopefully, it's good things to come. But outside of that, yes, sir, that's what I got. Mr. Will Stevenson, where can the folks find you, and what you got going on in the near future?
The folks at home can find me in the United States of America as tagged on Twitter, but more specifically, you can find me in the Dallas, Texas area. I am not scared of doxing myself quite so much, mostly because like my business is to get Hexicans to meet each other and things. So if you're a Hexican and you want to meet other Hexicans, then you need to go to bit.ly/hex_meetup or t.me/hex_meetup. They're both the same thing, but the bit.ly will take you directly to the Start Here post, which is, I think, the most useful part of that thing. So that's where you guys can find me in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm happy to go hang out and have a beer and, shoot the shit, throw some axes, do whatever the hell with whatever Hexicans are in the area. That's my jam. And other than that, I will be in this place for pretty long. And that's Zenith has already covered what the Degen Roundtable is doing. You'll find us here Wednesday. I'll be here. We'll be shooting the shit. We'll be doing something. And yeah, that's all I got. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent Jay often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing every single little bit of that asset right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable, and I'm the producer tonight, so I'm going to get my trigger finger ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.